you manage to exploit their weaknesses?
Well, we played a lot harder tonight, right, than we did in the previous game. It was very similar to game two. I thought a little bit more of a grind out affair. Neither team was shooting the ball that well, especially in the first half. And we played hard and tried to make it as tough as we could on them, and made some plays there at the end.
Nick, Michael Grange from Sportsnet. Kawhi was obviously Kawhi, but you needed more from somewhere else, and some of the other starters stepped up. Kyle looked pretty aggressive, and even got some stuff out of Serge and Marc Gasol playing together. Just maybe speak about some of the.
Yeah, I think it was pretty obvious we needed some punch, around the roster a little bit. Looks like we got 1, 2, 3, 4 other guys in double figures and another guy with 9, so that's pretty good. I just thought it was a different mentality tonight than it was the other night, right? Guys were looking to shoot, taking the shots, first shot that was there. When they're putting 2 or 3 on the ball, you got to get off it, and if you're open, you got to let her fly, because there's not anybody out there that we don't want shooting the ball.
Yeah, Nick, there's Doug Smith, the Toronto Star. The decision to limit the second half to basically six players, is that just kind of ride who was hot, or is it you needed to change up the way you played?
Well, we were using the 6 kind of with everybody. Right, we had some funky lineups out there at times tonight. I don't know. I just liked the way those guys were playing. Right, I didn't want any of them to come off the floor, and the way Serge was impacting, I wanted him on, and that's just the way I could figure out how to keep those same guys going. I think it was a size advantage for us, believe it or not, at some portions of the game, and it just felt good.
Nick, Steve Simmons, Toronto Sun.
Where are you, Steve? Hi, Steve.
To win that game without Pascal being in Pascal-type shape and to get very little offense from him, how pleased are you with your group that you were able to do that under these circumstances?
Yeah, I think Steve, this was, it was a gutty performance, right? And that kind of was needed regardless of who was there or not, but it even becomes a little more gutty when you're down. You're not down a guy, but he obviously wasn't himself, right? And kind of the way our team and the rhythm of our team had been flowing had been with a lot of his help and stuff. So we weren't in great rhythm, right? But we were good enough tonight, and we were fighting and figuring some things out on the fly. We were running some stuff tonight we've never run before with Marc and Serge, and trying to figure out how to best use some of that stuff, and we did just enough. We made a couple good decisions on a few plays. We got bailed out on a few times when we didn't, and then we had some bad possessions too, right? But I think the main thing is we kept not really stringing up stops, but we weren't letting them string up scores too often tonight.
To John, second row to your left.
Coach, John Schumann, NBA.com. What went into the decision to play Serge and Marc together so much? Was that completely separate from Pascal's, questionable status? And what do you think the effect was ultimately? Was it more on the defensive end of the floor of playing the two bigs together?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I felt tonight was the rebounding. Right, it just felt like we were getting pushed around a little bit in the last 2 games around the glass. And a lot of those times that would happen with our really small lineup, our Fred, Kyle, Norm, Pascal lineup, and they were just throwing it up there and revving up their engines and flying into the rim. And tonight we were just had more athleticism and size, and just looked that way, and then it looked kind of looked like the rebounds were affected by that. And I think that was the biggest thing. And the first part of your question, yeah, we were looking at some options of how to combat some of the problems we were having, and that obviously was entertained that Serge and Marc would play together.
We're going to go to Scott. Scott, on your right.
Hi, Scott.
Hey, Nick. Scott Stinson with Post Media. That last possession that Kawhi hit the big 3 on, I just wondered if you could sort of walk us through what you're thinking as he's trying to find a shot and then ultimately takes one that was a tough look.
Yeah, they did a good job of blowing up the play. They were kind of corralling him, I guess, with two guys, and we couldn't really get spacing to get off it and get to it wasn't like a hard blitz, and there was spacing there, and he got back on it. And I mean, listen, I thought it was going to be tough. I saw the shot clock winding down. He didn't get a great shot for the shots he took tonight. That was one of the tougher ones, right? And he just made a big shot.
Last couple questions.
Nick, Mike Sealski from the Philadelphia Inquirer. To kind of follow up on that, how much, given the way Kawhi has played in this series, how much wiggle room do you feel like you guys have if he doesn't play as well as he's played in these 4 games?
Well, I think that, again, I'm hoping that we can get back to being a little bit more ourselves, right? I just think, again, where our rhythm hasn't been great, and you give them credit, man. This is a good team, right? They're physical, they're big, they're up and guarding, they're game planning, they're watching the films and all that stuff too. We're not in great rhythm. And I think we need to find a little more rhythm if something like that were to happen. And as much as at least we stepped in and took shots tonight, I think I watched a whole bunch of ones that I'm going to keep taking, and we got to make more of them. I mean, there's a lot of naked threes out there that we didn't hit, and one of these days we just might.
Last question here.
Coach Brian Koprowski from Hoopsite. You have, 2 bigs who can both stretch the floor with Serge and Mark. How much does that factor in the decision to play them again together moving forward?
Well, I think we probably look at it again just because it helped us on the rebounding. It does help that they can both make them. It was nice to see Mark take them and make a couple and kind of keep taking them. Serge, hopefully when we get back on our own floor, will get dialed in a little bit. He had a couple threes that he took. He can make those too, and it'd be nice if he could throw 1 or 2 in a game too, because again, the penetration by whoever is going to draw a lot of help, as it should, and those guys are kind of safety valves out behind the arc, and if they're all alone out there, we want them to step in and take them, either one of them. Yeah.
Thanks very much, everybody.
So a few key words there from Toronto Raptors head coach Nick Nurse. He said, getting back to being ourselves after the last 2 games. It's as if he's saying that they weren't playing their brand of basketball. Serge Ibaka, Marc Gasol in the lineup together seemed to be one of those things that provided that, Sam.
Yeah, they have some size out there, and then you can dominate. People sometimes, everybody get caught up in small ball sometimes, but when you have size out there, it does a lot of things. It shrinks the floor. Now you can cover the rebound. You can wall. Now you got 2 guys. Marc Gasol is one of the best at walling up, and we know Serge Ibaka can block shots.
Brett Brown made some adjustments after Game 1. Let's see what he has to say after this loss in Game 4.
Am I right? No, you're right, Brett. Sarah Todd, Philadelphia Inquirer. That execution, probably the last half of that 4th quarter. What did you see? There was there's a couple turnovers, a lot of missed shots.
To be exact, there were 3 turnovers, and we missed some free throws and we missed some layups. And you give Toronto credit; their defense went up a new level, and it was a closeout type of quarter, 4th period to go win a game, and we went in there. I think it was 75-75 at the end of the 3rd, and we went into a drought. There was probably a 6.5 minute drought that was littered with missed layups, missed free throws, some open threes, and sprinkled in with some turnovers, and I give Toronto credit.
Brett, center. Gerard Hector, BSO. Obviously with 1 day in between each game now, the rest of the series, no one's really 100%. Are you looking at anything differently with Joel playing minutes and how you're going to sort of structure that rotation going forward?
I mean, it's really just driven out of his health. I got a text from him at 6:20 a.m. this morning telling me like he didn't sleep all night. He'd really never felt this poorly, and he was unsure, Coach, if I'm going to play. I just want to give you a heads up. I'll try, but I don't know. And, with that started my day. And you started to like fast forward about who's going to come in, how you're going to, rotate the team, et cetera. To his complete credit, he just kind of willed his way through it. And that's a circular way to answer your question. When I get information of how healthy he is, I can better tell you or answer your question. As it sits, I appreciate and respect his effort to get out there and play for his team.
Maybe it's in regards to that. I noticed Joel wasn't out there for the anthems. Was he dealing with something at that point?
And John, I would expect that. I would completely expect that to be the reason, but I don't know that.
And I saw him after the early dunk. It looked like he grimaced. Was it something with his knee or his back, or was it
No,
something?
it's a virus, and all during like pregame film, you can hear him sneezing and sneezing and sneezing, and you try to ignore it and like just coach through it and show the players the pregame tape, but I'd be lying if I were to tell you it wasn't completely on my mind as I'm talking to the team, showing the tape, listening and seeing him.
Brett, Darrell Bell, Philadelphia Tribune. You've tried everything almost imaginable to stop Kawhi. Is there any combination that you have seen that you like and you want to see more of?
I mean, I think he's punishing for sure. And, when it was a 1-point game with, I think, a minute, maybe it was a little more than a minute, with maybe, 2 seconds on a clock, he hits that back-breaker three. And I think it took it to 84, 81 or something like that. The stuff that he can get off, and we had two people out there, the stuff that he can do to create his own shot is Kobe-like for me. He's just so gifted in relation to doing that. To your question about who can guard him? Funny enough, with our wins, I think we've done a decent job on him. Mightn't we look to double team him a little bit more? Possibly. But, we were able to create, I think he had 7 turnovers and just try to do our best to show him a crowd. But at the end of the day, that's a hell of a player. 39 points, and you really felt all of them.
Brett, you mentioned pregame that you were ready for them to counter with a bigger lineup. How did you think you responded to that bigger lineup when Nick Nurse showed it late in the game?
I think we did fine. I think rebounding wise, you could feel the physicality. Try to do some stuff for Tobias. With Serge trying to chase him a little bit more. It's stuff we had talked about. But like I say, they effectively played 6 players, and he did a great job. I think Serge and Mark, you got 2 veteran physical players. I thought that they were outstanding. Mark especially hurt us with I thought efficient play and some threes and so on, but I didn't feel like we were unprepared. I do give them credit for the way they performed, but it wasn't something that caught us off guard.
Brett, in the back, what did you think of the way Jimmy played today to kind of keep you guys in the game all 4 quarters?
I mean, he just he wills his way into putting his thumbprint on just the game. Like there's a physicality that he plays with. He's just a runaway train at times, and him coming up with some rebounds and loose balls, and you see his just jaw-dropping athleticism. And then you just see his toughness emerge. And, we talk a lot about trying to play to mirror the spirit of the city. This is Philadelphia. And there is a toughness that he has that I think reflects the spirit of the city. And I think tonight, once again, you saw him do everything that he could to will us a win.
Brett, when Joel is that sick and he texts you in the morning, he's not feeling right, obviously he's not 100%, is there any consideration for not having him play tonight, or was it up to him? Or
For sure, Sarah, there was. And he just forced his way into playing. Like he said, I'm playing. And really, like when you look at it, he was plus 17. we're all going to look at whatever he shot from the floor or his free throws or whatever. Cut to the chase and go to the bottom line and look at plus minus. And despite, him being ill and despite, 7 shots or, what he shot at the free throw line, and really his free throws were quite good up until the fourth period, he ends up a plus 17. And it's just another reminder of how important he is to our team.
But just to follow up on in the back, just to follow up on Jimmy, when he's on the bench, he seems like he's very, very engaged, kind of up, pacing around, talking to the guys on the court. What's it like having him back there? What is his? You mentioned the imprint that he puts on the team.
Yeah.
What is he saying? What is he like on the bench?
Leadership stuff, just leadership stuff that you would hope from a coaching standpoint one of your best players to say. And, you just sort of seen him, I have seen him grow from a leadership standpoint in noticeable ways. And it's reflected with his performance on a court. It's reflected of what goes on in the locker room. It's reflected with what you just said. You see him on a bench when he's not playing. You can point to multiple examples to say, that is a leader. And he's been able to back that up with some strong court performances.
Thanks, Brett.
Thank you.
Okay, the biggest takeaway from that, Brett Brown letting us know that Joel Embiid was sick prior to the start of this game and didn't know if he would play. What do you make of that?
Well, I never question a guy's injury or a sickness, but all I know is if he plays 35 minutes with this injury, I'm going to try to get him more touches. I don't understand that press conference from Brett Brown where he was sick, wasn't going to play, will play or not play. All we know is he played. And from the game 3 to game 4, I know we try to keep things in-house, but I didn't see him being sick enough where he doesn't get touches, where he's a decoy. He still was playing, Sam, in my opinion, where you have to get him the basketball if he's going to be out there 35 minutes. Now, if you'd have played him 11 minutes, 12 minutes, I had an understanding. But he played 35 minutes. Whether he played bad or good in those 35 minutes, you still have to go through him until he tells you he doesn't want the basketball or he can't do it because of his illness.
All I know is this: when I coached Chris Bosh and Kevin Garnett, all I know is whether they was out there at 100% or 50%, every time they touched the ball, we had an opportunity to score because the defense going to react. They don't know that he's not 100% because no one talked about it. This is the first we've heard of Joel Embiid not feeling well or maybe not even playing. So, but I do know this as a coach. Every time that guy, my best player, touched the ball, the defense going to react. Now, if he's not at his best where he's scoring and in flow, I'm going to talk to him during my timeouts or at halftime or before the game. Look, I'm going to get you your touches, but if you don't feel right, we're going to use you as a decoy and you keep the ball moving to get other guys opportunities because Joel Embiid on the floor is still better than any other option that you have. And to Smitty's point, you played him 35 minutes and he gets 7 shots. You can't do that. If he's going to play 35 minutes, regardless of how he feels, the ball's got to be in his hands so he can cause the other team defense to react.
7 shots, 7 assists. The thing that, for Joel Embiid, the thing that Brett Brown pointed to, which maybe make you raise an eyebrow, is just the plus minus, that he was plus 17, and that's the end-all, be-all. Do you subscribe to that train of thought when you're looking at a box score at the end of a game?
I think you have to be careful with individual game plus minus, Chris. As these guys know, you can be on the court and not do a whole lot when a team goes on a run and your plus minus looks great, or you can play very well and be on the court at the wrong time when the other team goes on a run and it doesn't look very good. So I understand what Coach Brown's trying to do. He's trying to protect his best player. I thought Embiid looked fatigued. I don't know if he was sick or not. Only the people within the walls of the 76ers organization know that. But I do think he looked fatigued tonight, and I think you saw that on the biggest play of the game with a minute left. Philly's down 1. Embiid gets switched onto Jimmy Butler. He doesn't slide up into Jimmy. He gets switched onto Kawhi Leonard. He doesn't slide with Kawhi. He drops his hands, and Kawhi hits a 3 to put Toronto up 4 and give the Raptors the lead, which clinched the game for Toronto.
Your proverbial dagger. Just looking at shot attempts, Tobias Harris 23, Jimmy Butler 18, Ben Simmons 10 to Joel Embiid's 7. We'll look to hear from the players next here on Game Time.